Battle Royale games have become pretty big recently, and while the biggest of them is probably still PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, you gotta admit that Fortnite Battle Royale is catching up pretty fast. That's likely because of all of the really cool abilities and extra game modes that are in this game, which really makes playing it a totally unique experience. The game is still pretty unique now, but what you might not have known is that there are plenty of things that were in the game but just aren't anymore. Hey guys, ArcadeCloud here, and today we're counting down the top 5 abilities that got removed from Fortnite. If you're new to our channel, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with some friends. It's free. At number 5, we have 50 vs 50, sneaky silencers, and high explosive game modes. I guess I'm kind of pushing the limit of what you can call an ability with this one, because what I'm talking about is all of the time-limited game modes that Fortnite Battle Royale has had and then gotten rid of since the game has come out. So the ability that was removed is your ability to play the interesting extra game modes that Fortnite Battle Royale has had over the past couple of months. This all started off with Fortnite's 50v50 mode. It was exactly what you would think it was, basically the original Fortnite Battle Royale, but with 50 players on each team. This turned the game into a grueling team deathmatch fight to the finish, with 2 giant sides battling against each other until the bitter end. There were some small changes to the mode that made it easier to tell which players were friendly and which players were your enemies, and anyone on a team could revive a downed teammate even if they weren't in your own squad. Next came the high explosive game mode, and it arrived with a bang. The new mode was basically the same as the original 100-player Battle Royale, with one pretty significant change. The only weapons that spawned into the level were explosives. There were no more assault rifles, snipers, shotguns, or anything like that. All people were able to use was rocket launchers, grenade launchers, and grenades. Anyone who's played Fortnite knows that explosives are pretty important at the end of a match, when things are tight and people are mainly hiding in their forts, but the high explosive mode brought that high octane action to the whole game, and there were lots of explosions to be had. After high explosive was probably what I would consider to be the total opposite. Instead of running around with big weapons making things go boom, you only had access to suppressed pistols and suppressed SMGs, with traps being completely disabled and bush disguises being increased drastically. The best parts of Fortnite are usually when everything goes crazy, so maybe it's a good thing that you can't play this mode anymore. I don't know, if I wanted to crawl around in a bush all day, I would just play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I wouldn't be playing the game that seems to rely on crazy forts being destroyed by people riding on a rocket across the map while trying to snipe someone in midair. What makes it worse is that there was no solo mode for this game type. You would think that in a mode based around stealth, it should just be about assassinating one person, not going into a big team fight. At number 4, we have the ability to reload while zoomed in. Sniping is really good in Fortnite Battle Royale. For a start, you can't zoom in all the way with every weapon in the game like you can in PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, so to find a weapon that lets you be more accurate is an immediate plus. But sniping actually used to be a whole lot better than it currently is. No, the snipers didn't do more damage or anything like that. It was a much smaller change that had some pretty huge impacts on how sniping felt and worked in the game, and in my opinion was actually a pretty huge nerf that has only been getting worse in more recent updates. You used to be able to reload while you were zoomed into your sniper, and now you can't. And that doesn't exactly sound like a big change, right? Well, believe me, it actually is. When you could reload zoomed in, you were able to easily keep track of your enemies if they were really far away, and then take consecutive shots even if you had to reload. Now that you have to actually stop being zoomed in to reload, you can't keep track of your enemies anymore, and if they're really far away, then you might find it much harder to get a lock on them again. To be honest, while snipers are still so powerful considering their accuracy, power, and range, this seriously made them a little less desirable to use. Sure, you can pop someone's head off, but you could also lose them by accident. The change to this zoom reload mechanic also brought with it some pretty bad issues for sniping in the game, resulting in the whole process feeling really clunky to do. When it comes to reloading, it used to be done automatically. As soon as your gun is empty, you just put in a new magazine. But that doesn't happen with snipers anymore. You physically have to push a button to zoom out and then reload. Now I know this is so we can watch our bullets fly across the screen to see if we hit or how much we need to adjust our shots, but it just feels bad, and it kind of makes me wish we could just reload zoomed in again. At number 3, we have the old jump and directional pad. While playing Fortnite Battle Royale, you might come across a trap called the launch pad. This trap throws you high in the air and lets you skydive, and even allows you to deploy your glider mid-match. If you use it off the top of a tall building, then you can go seriously far. In other words, it's a pretty cool and incredibly rare tool to have in your inventory. If you're more new to the game, what you might not know is that the launch pad wasn't always around, and we actually had 2 different types of jump pad instead. Nowadays, it's easy to hop on a launch pad and go wherever you wanted, but the old jump pads were pretty different and needed a lot more skill to use correctly. The jump pad up was a standard standard rare trap that could be placed on any floor in the game. It glowed blue and had a bunch of arrows pointing inward, so you definitely knew what kind of jump pad you were getting. If you placed it down and then stepped on it, the pad would launch you 2 blocks directly upwards. Unlike the new launch pad though, you couldn't go into free fall or open up your glider again, so the uses of this item were limited. There were really only 2 good ways to use the item. You could use it to easily and instantly scale a building while making the minimum amount of noise, meaning you could take people by surprise if they were camping out on the roof, or alternatively, if you were up on the roof yourself, you could use a jump pad to get down. It sounds weird, right? Jumping on something that would make you go higher seems to imply that it would end up killing you instead of helping you, but after you jumped on one of these things, it would stop you from taking fall damage, so it all worked out in the end. The other jump pad was called the jump pad directional. While it was also a rare drop, it looked completely different. Unlike the jump pad up's blue color, this thing was orange, and the arrows on it faced outward instead of inward, so there was definitely no way that you could get the two mixed up. The jump pad directional worked a lot like the jump pad up. The only difference is that instead of making you go seriously high, it would take you on a more horizontal trajectory, meaning that it was best used to quickly bounce into a new location to surprise enemies that were likely below where you were or on the same height. Although the new launch pad is better than both of these, I kinda miss the skill it took to use these two jump pads in interesting and useful ways. At number 2 we have the old traps. Much like the jump pads, traps used to be a much more varied affair. Nowadays you have the damage trap. The damage trap is a multi-purpose trap that can be placed on the floor, on walls, and even on the ceiling of a room. Even though the tooltip only says floor, you can actually place it anywhere. But like I said, this wasn't always the case, and 3 traps have actually been removed to make way for this better version. The first trap that has since been removed are the retractable floor spikes. These could only be placed on the floor and would basically shoot deadly spikes at an enemy player if they were to step on it. Using these traps was pretty difficult because of the 3, they are really the most obvious. I mean, when you walk into a room, the first thing you do is have a look around, and the floor is the biggest and most obvious thing right in front of you, so obviously you're going to probably notice something dangerous right there. Next was the ceiling zapper. This trap did basically the same exact job as the floor spikes, but instead of shooting spikes from below a player, it would shoot electricity down at the player from above. Again though, these traps were pretty obvious to spot if you knew what you were looking for. After being built, they made this sort of static electric buzzing sound, and they glowed bright blue, so it was pretty obvious when a ceiling zapper was around. Add to the fact that the ceiling zapper can be destroyed with a gun after being identified, and then you really have a pretty useless trap. The wall dynamo was basically the ceiling zapper but on a wall. They were equally easy to spot, making the same sort of buzzing noise and also glowing a really bright blue. These traps could also easily be destroyed with a gun from a distance, so they were almost no threat at all if you were able to notice them before being attacked by one. With all these negatives, I can again kind of understand why they were removed, but come on, the new damage trap is super boring because it's basically just a spike trap that can be placed on any surface. The ceiling zapper and wall dynamo, while pretty useless, took more skill to use and actually had a bit of cool uniqueness to them. It's a shame they got removed completely. At number 1, we have the Zapper Tron gun. Back in October, Fortnite introduced probably the most powerful gun in the game, and then they immediately removed it again for being way too powerful. I am of course talking about the incredibly powerful Zapper Tron laser rifle. This gun was said to be a high-tech energy sniper rifle that could be charged up to fire a single powerful shot, or that could be fired normally. It sounds like an awesome idea, right? Well, to be completely honest, it was. In fact, it was obviously too good of an idea because it was pretty much immediately removed. When you charged up a shot with the Zapper Tron, you could basically kill an enemy in a single shot, and then the shot would pierce through that enemy and deal damage to whoever was standing behind them. It had a 5% chance to deal a critical hit, and if that happened, the damage would spike by 75%. Oh, and the headshot multiplier was set at 150, which means that you did an extra half of your total damage on top if you hit someone in the head. I'm pretty sure if you were lucky enough to land a critical headshot on 2 people standing behind each other, then it would be instant death for the both of them. The only way this futuristic laser weapon was balanced was the fact that it could only be found in supply drops, and that you couldn't aim down sights with it like any other sniper rifle. Like, you could zoom in a little bit to tighten your hip fire, but you couldn't look down the sights at all. Obviously, those 2 balancing factors weren't enough though, because the gun was gone as soon as it arrived, now destined to sit as Fortnite legend for the rest of time. And there you have it, our list of the top 5 abilities that got removed from Fortnite. Do you agree? Did we miss something? Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe for more great videos from ArcadeCloud on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Take care, and game on.